morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me here on my little data journey this morning. So as you can see, I want to talk you through a little bit around smart cars, smart cities, and the smart world. And we live in a data-driven society, so data is all around us. We collect data a lot, we analyze data, and we can use data, and we can use this for sustainability. And I want to show you today what we do in the center. So what kind of data are we talking about? Where is data coming from? Where do we collect all this? So, you have transitions data. You have kind of data which comes from talking to your customers, for example. We certainly have social media data. Think of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of these. The stream of data which comes through these channels is massive. And then certainly we have machine data. So think about sensor data. Even here around us now, you have temperature sensors, things like that. Think about your mobile phone, right? Your mobile phone has, I would assume, 5, 6, possibly 8 or 9 different sensors. And all these help you to make better decisions and to help you, for example, to find your way through the city with GPS or Wi-Fi. You can take pictures with your phone. That is data as well. You can send emails, you can use your Bluetooth, you can record message or voice. So all of this is data, and all this comes to us, and this kind of thing we can use. So I've kind of indicated already, data is massive, and there are these kind of terms around us, the big data, you've heard that. But it's not just about big data. Sometimes it can be quite small data. It's more even around where is data coming from, what different data sources do you use, how do you combine them? And we are kind of interested in, the kind of velocity, not just, do a report on a monthly basis, but if you get data in like your Twitter stream, which is instant, what can you do with that right now, rather than after a certain period of time? And then certainly the variety of data as well. As I mentioned, have these different data sources and how to combine all of this. So that's kind of what we do in the center. We use all these grassroots, that's why my slide was kind of green, and all these grassroots data, because there's a lot of information and potential value in this data. But you have to do something with this data to make it valuable. And that's what we do in the Insight Center of Data Analytics. We're kind of one of the biggest research centers in Ireland. We have 350 researchers across 8 institutions with different expertise in different data analytics areas, from data mining to video analytics, to linked data, to decision making, and so forth. And what we really do, and I will tell you examples about this, we help people, companies, and the society to make better decisions, to scroll through the data, find patterns and trends in the data, and help to make better decisions. And the kind of 3 topics I've been choosing this morning as of the kind of sustainability summit is smart cars, smart cities, and the smart world, right? Once you get in the smart world, it's really, really interesting. So, smart cars. Look at this person. It's not just a smart watch there, possibly, but there could be a heart rate monitor maybe in his watch. He could be looking at this kind of monitor in front in the car, and all this information could be used and can be connected in different ways. And by connecting, and this is really where data becomes smart, or your car or your city becomes smart, when you connect different data sources. So here you see a few. I'm not sure how much you really see. It's smaller than I thought. I'm just giving you a few kind of use cases which are here on the slide. So you can talk about safety. I mentioned, the heart rate monitor. You can monitor how quick your heart rate is going, what is happening with you, to kind of give an indication of, maybe you have a heart attack, be careful. There are even car manufacturers putting this in their seat, and it's not Volkswagen. You can look into, electric vehicle safety, your car telling you when your oil is running out and then it has to get serviced, things like that. Or even insurance companies are getting into this, where you have a black box in your car and it tells you how you actually drive, right? If you speed, if you go from one side to the other side, if you swerve a lot. So it tells them basically if you're a good or a bad driver and how likely you might do an accident. and that obviously has an impact on your car insurance. So all of these examples here are possible. You also see things like fleet management here, and we have a project we've been doing in terms of that area around carpooling. So if you can if you go somewhere from A to B and you can take someone with you who has the same journey or similar journey, then obviously, it becomes much more sustainable. So that's what we've done. We've kind of developed a system to help people take other people with them, to give them the choice what they can do, and tell them about, the routes people go, the pricing, to give them a lot of choice of managing all that. Smart cities, as that smart cars are connected cars. So if you think about smart cities, it becomes even more exciting. So now you connect the city. You connect all the kind of sensors which are in the city. And the lights might get intelligent. The traffic might get intelligent. If you know that there's a congestion somewhere, there are loads of cars around, and suddenly the traffic light turns because there's a lot of big bulk coming rather than going on red and stopping everyone. If waste management is another area. Think if your dustbin becomes really intelligent, you have a sensor in your dustbin telling you, or even calling the person, hang on, this dustbin is full, collect me. So these are all possible areas of smart cities, and there are a couple of big companies looking into this in terms of, the networks, how you do all this, how you bring all these different sensor sources together. One example I wanted to show you here is what we do around this, much more, is tracking objects. I mentioned kind of the management on the roads. So if you can really track a person or a car, and we do this by using CCTV cameras, you can see the traffic flow. You know how cars are moving from A to B. Do they take this road or that road? Is there a congestion happening? You even see these kind of little swirls to really get an idea what is kind of happening. So it's a more dynamic picture rather than a static picture, which is much more interesting. And you can obviously react on it, also in terms of security, for example. Smart world. So now we've connected the cities. Now let's connect the world. Okay. So in a city you can already do a lot in terms of, even this building would be considered part of a city. But what if you talk about water, if you talk about energy, about healthcare, about the big problems that society has? And all this is possible with the data we collect. And two projects I want to talk to you about this is actually a startup we have from DCU. It's called Ambisense. And what they did, they developed their own air and gas monitors. So literally their own devices, because if you want to monitor certain sensors or certain gases, you can only do this if you walk out to the field, you take your sample, you bring it back in the laboratory, you analyze it, and then, until you've analyzed it, maybe it's too late, okay? And you can only do this maybe once a month. But what if you have a cheap sensor you can leave at a site, and we do this, for example, at a landfill site, where you monitor the gas, what's happening there, and the flares and what's happening. We had these issues that landfill sites were starting to burn. So suddenly you can actually monitor this constantly. You get the data streamed to you, you know what is happening, and what does it help you? You can actually instantly react on what is kind of happening. And you can not only use this for landfill sites, you can also use this, for example, for wastewater treatment plants. So you have gas coming from the water as well, which you can monitor, and you know what is happening and how the process within the water actually works. So it's all about making things instantly, dynamic, and right at the spot. And another project I brought here is another big word, the Internet of Things, right? So I kind of mentioned that you can kind of connect all these data sources. So if you connect data and data, or sensors and sensors, or things, right? We talk about the Internet of Things. We do more than that, and I've mentioned it in the other examples, and it's called the Internet of Everything. So you're not just connecting things, you're also connecting people. So so what you do, right? So the more data sources you add, the more interesting it gets. And this is an Internet of Things platform, which we semantically annotate. So you take sensor data, but sensors have different ways to talk with each other. Sensors are different. You can't just connect them in any way because they come from different sources, they're made for different things. You can't even search them in a way. So you basically have to tag them, you have to give them metadata to find them, to connect them, to make them talk to each other in a very generic and general language. And that's kind of what we do. So we kind of give them this metadata so they can talk with each other, and we also add this into the cloud. So think about if you collect all this data, it's massive. So if you use the cloud, you suddenly have a platform where you can upload all your data, where you can use the data as you need it. So, and this example I've kind of used here, and obviously because it's a platform, it can be leveraged in many, many use cases. But in this example here, we've actually, that's a kind of European project, we're using it on sheep grazing and crop regrowth. So there are sensors which are in the earth, they're literally measuring on different kind of distances how certain crops grow, what water they use, what yield they have, and what the impact of sheep grazing has on that. When is the right time to put my sheep on this grass? Is it the right crop for that right time? And what happens? So you can basically do research on finding which is the right crop for what sort of management. And that obviously helps you to identify what you should do in the next step if you have a certain weather condition. It helps you to find the right crops which yield really well. And it also tells you when to use fertilizers and in what kind of way. So it has a lot of impact, what we have here. So these are really the kind of use cases and examples I've brought with me today. But there are loads and loads more, as you can imagine. And I hope I've just given you a snapshot of once you collect data, what you can kind of do with it. And that it's really worth looking into, do I have simply just say weather data? How is my weather data now impacting, for example, on this crop yield? And very often it's openly available data, like this open Internet of Things platform. Data very often is there, and you just need to use it and add it to solutions you have, and you suddenly become a much richer data information you can then leverage to make better decisions.